Hello, welcome back to Sunset Salutations. My name is Kristin Devine Jones, and I'm so thrilled to be sharing my backyard with you today. We got rained out yesterday, which is a common occurrence, but today I have faith that we are going to have enduring sunshine through the next 30 minutes, and I feel blessed by it upon my face. And I'm loving the sound of the chirping birds and the sight of my fresh green spring grass. So we're going to pick up today with Dan Harris for our opening, 10% Happier. The last we met with him, he had been recommended to go to a retreat. The guru of choice was by the name of Goldstein, and we're going to join Harris now as he starts on his first day of the retreat. The official opening session is held in the meditational hall. As soon as I'm settled, I look over to see a row of teachers walking into the hall single file. The teachers take their seats in the front row, and one of them, Kamala, welcomes us in and declares that we have now officially entered into silence. More rules: no talking, no reading. She tells us that the goal on retreat is to try to be mindful at all times, not just when we're meditating. This means that all of our activities, walking, eating, sitting, even going to the bathroom, should be done with exaggerated slowness, so we can pay meticulous, microscopic attention. At this point, I get my first look at the schedule. It's even more brutal than I'd imagined. Days will start with a 5 o'clock wake-up call, followed by an hour of meditation, then breakfast, then a series of alternating periods of sitting and walking meditation of various lengths, lasting all the way up until 10 at night, broken up by meals, rest and work periods, and an evening Dharma talk. I do some quick math, roughly 10 hours a day of meditation. I honestly do not know if I can hack this. Wakes up on day 2, my alarm goes off at 5, and I realize suddenly and unhappily where I am. I pick out one of the 3 pairs of sweatpants I packed in anticipation of long sedentary days. As I walk amidst the silent herd through the pre-dawn darkness, I resolve to go balls out on this retreat. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. So when I enter the hall, instead of going to the chair I'd picked the night before, I wade into the mats. I put 2 cushions on top of each other and straddle them, imitating the sitting style of some of the more experienced meditators. I notice that as people file in, many of them stop and bow in the direction of the Buddha statue at the front of the hall. This makes me uncomfortable. I wonder how Sam deals with this. Then another unpleasant surprise. There are pieces of legal-size paper at each of our meditation stations. They are lyric sheets. We will be expected to chant. On the right side of the page is the English translation. In the first part of the chant, we're taking refuge in the Buddha, the Blessed One, the Perfect One, the fully enlightened one. Then we take the precepts, which are basically a series of promises. Almost immediately, I realize that sitting on cushions is a terrible idea. I am assailed by back and neck pain. The circulation to my feet feels like it's dangerously choked off. I try to focus on my breathing, but I can't keep up a volley of more than 1 or 2 breaths. In, out, in. Holy crap, I think my feet are going to snap off the ankle. Come on, dude, in. It feels like a dinosaur has my ribcage in its mouth. Out. I'm hungry. It's really quiet in here. I wonder if anyone else is freaking out right now. After a truly horrible hour, I hear a gentle ringing sound, kind of like a gong. The teacher has just tapped on what looks like a metal bowl, but apparently it's a bell. Everyone gets up and shuffles mindfully down the hill toward the dining hall. I follow along the days like I've just had the bejesus kicked out of me. A line forms outside the building. Oh, right. We're not allowed to go in until one of the chefs comes out and rings a bell. There's something a little pathetic about this. I look around while the word yogi sounds goofy, like Yogi Berra or Yogi Bear. These people all seem so grim. Turns out mindfulness isn't a cute look. Everyone is in his or her own world, trying very hard to stay in the moment. The effort of concentration produces facial expressions that range from blank to defecatory. The instruction sheets gently advise us not to make eye contact with our fellow retreatants, so as not to interpret one another's meditative concentration, which makes this the only place on earth where the truly compassionate response to a sneeze is to ignore it completely. The outfits aren't helping this zombie jamboree. Aesthetically, many of these people seem to be cultivating an aggressive plainness. Breakfast is followed by a break and then second sitting of the day. Even though I've retreated to my chair, I am nonetheless besieged by screaming back pain. I still can't maintain concentration for more than 1 or 2 breaths, perhaps because I'm having so much performance anxiety. The meditation is much harder for me here than it is at home. I feel like a rookie who's been called up to the big leagues and just can't cut it. I cannot believe I'm going to be sitting in this chair here in this room with these people for the next 9 days of my life. He continues on to talk about his obsession with the bell. For his next meditation, all he can think about is this desire for it to be over. And it's interesting to me as he finds himself in a new place, how the sort of aggravation and stress of adapting and changing brings up so many of his old problems, which he has been able, as we've seen through meditation, to really build upon and work upon. But the truth about this practice is that the muscle is only as strong as the amount of times and the length of time you spend at the gym. So, with that in mind, we want to use this as motivation to really keep our own practice regular and full. Awesome. Finding our arms all the way up here, we're just going to reach forward in our cross-legged position. Good. Deep breath in. Tent the hands. Breathing in. Out. See if you can stretch the spine longer without losing any of the weight in your hips here. Good. Breathing in. And out. Excellent. Allowing the elbows to fall and finding your prayer position up and over the head here. See if you can inch those hands just down the spine and sending your energy into your upper back. On the exhale, flattening out. Good. Deep breath in. Curving the spine all the way up and back. Good. Releasing that curve and shooting the energy up. Excellent. And finding yourself back, sitting upright. Good. We're just going to press that right knee towards the ground, twisting here, lifting all the way up before the twist, and switching other side. Lifting and twisting. Good. Excellent. Considering he was discussing sort of the pins and needles, sometimes that this position can cause for some, I do encourage you to try different postures with your lower leg. Some people prefer to sit in a butterfly position. I always find that I'm distracted by my knees here. You can slide cushions underneath so that they feel like they have something to rest upon. It might feel like too much of a hip exercise or a hip stretch for some of you, in which case, if you're still finding struggle and tension to the point that it is so distracting and makes meditation unbearable in this seated position, I do recommend to find a chair with a short seat so that you can find an upright spine without pushing back into the back of the chair, and allow that to aid you in finding your alignment. You may find the process more enjoyable that way, or maybe you want to start with lying down meditations. Anyway, all of this is to say it's totally normal to find difficulty in the alignment part. As you can hear from Dan, it can be unbearable for some, and you are not an alien if that's part of your process. Do know, though, that the more that you attend to that, the more it will release for you and become something that you can work through and find a sense of progress with. Awesome. I'm going to take my seat here. So I'm going to cross my legs. I'm going to sit up through my spine. I want to think first. I'm going to allow my hands to touch my knees. I want to think first here about breathing all the way up and through the spine, feeling the vertebrae stack on top of each other. Good. I want to take a deep breath in and release. Just want to notice before I dive into my meditation where my breath is. I'm going to start at the bottom of my seat and just do a quick physical scan. Notice anywhere that there's tension or discomfort. See if just for a moment before we begin meditating, if I can let that go. Good. Now I want to start at the top of the head, do a reverse scan. See if I can find any places of beautiful relief, awesome comfort. Noting just the parts of my body that feel easy and wonderful today. When you're ready, allow the eyes to close here and turn your attention fully to the breath. If you find it helpful for you to utilize a mantra, today try breathing in strength and breathing out vulnerability. Whenever the mind begins to wander, which is an inevitability, notice it and bring your attention back to the breath. Just a reminder, no judgment is needed in this practice. Find yourself worrying, judging. Note the activity, give it a name, and release it. Place that energy instead on the breath. The mantra is always there to anchor you if you become distracted. Breathing in, strength, and out, vulnerability. Just for a moment now, release your concentration on the breath and allow your curiosity to run freely. Let the mind wander. Bring yourself back to the room now. Feel your sit bones grounded fully beneath you. Feel the touch of your palm against your knee. Maybe notice the temperature. Become acutely aware of sounds. Give your toes and fingers a quick wiggle. When you're ready, open your eyes. Welcome back. For those of you who are sitting upright, I encourage you to find yourself on your side here, resting and restoring. I hope you were curious today about the dichotomy within our mantra. How those two feelings are simultaneously opposite and the same. How one cannot survive fully without the other. Noticing that your strength requires your vulnerability, and that to dive fully into vulnerability takes great strength. If you were not able to find yourself in tune with those two physical feelings, how your breath changes when you wander upon them, I encourage you to do that now as you find yourself on your side. As you breathe in strength, what happens to the physical body? On your exhale release of vulnerability, what can you notice? Take a few breaths here. Allow yourself to be very curious about all of the energy that's changing with those two ideas. I would posit that at some point, when you get to the full breath of each of them, we'll come closer together rather than further apart. It's certainly something to continue to explore and in your life off the cushion. Thank you so much for joining me today for Sunset Salutations. It has been my pleasure to meditate with you.